The sound effects.
Hey, what's up, phone lovers, and welcome to the Mobile Roar podcast for the week of October 17th, 2014. I did it again, dang it. I'm Joe Fudo.
8.1. I'm Christopher Chavez.
I am
8.1.
Kevin Kraus.
We're coming at you a little bit later than our usual lateness because Apple decided to drag out an iPad event
Because the
forever.
Apple. Blame Apple.
That seriously, we'll get into it a little bit more, but that was a boring event. But we'll get right into the news because a lot has happened this week, and we'll start off with what everyone I'm sure is just dying to hear about, and that is the new Nexus stuff. We got the Nexus 6, the Nexus 9, the Nexus Player.
Hey, whoa. I want to hear about these new iPads, man. That's what I want to know about.
We'll get to that, Chris. We'll get to that.
Yeah, all in due time.
All in due time, indeed. Also, Android Lollipop is official. L stands for Lollipop, which I think we kind of guessed a while ago it was going to be
I
Lollipop.
was actually towards the announcement. I was more curious if it was going to be 4.5 or 4.5.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true.
they spoiled that too.
5 dot O.
They spoiled that in their little audition teaser. They came
Yeah.
out and just said it was 5.0.
They also rolled out some new Android marketing commercials and a new tagline and lots of new stuff going on in Android world. So let's talk about it. And I guess we'll just start off with the Nexus 6. It's big.
It's big. We told you.
Yeah, it's big. So all
gonna
those
be
people
big.
that were kind of like me, sitting there crossing their fingers, hoping that it would not end up being 6 inches. We were
Yeah.
wrong.
We are disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was one of those people.
But there's still hope on the horizon, and I guess we'll have to explain that a little bit later. But yeah, it's a big old honking phablet. It's Google's answer to the iPhone 6 Plus. I mean, there's no question that it needed to be done. So whatever your feelings are towards these big phablet devices, I mean, Android needed a stock Android phablet, and this is most definitely going to be it. It's freaking ginormous.
It's a nice phone. It's just kind of like, to me, strikes me as a bigger Moto X. Aren't the features are pretty much on par with what we get with the Moto X. Um, does Moto X have Snapdragon 805 or does it have 801?
It has an 801. 801.
Yeah, 801. Because I did a comparison post, and pretty much all the top flagship Android phones right now have the 801, and the Nexus 6 has the 805. So if you want something really powerful,
I can't even imagine what you like. Oh my gosh, that's too much speed. I can't even think
yeah,
of it.
it's a giant honking phone in every category: processor, screen, resolution. Camera's 13 megapixels, I think, which is not the biggest out there, but it's pretty good. And I don't know. I'll be interested to see how the camera actually looks too.
Yeah, I think we can expect it to be pretty similar to that new Moto X, which also uses that 13 megapixel sensor. I think it's a nice looking phone. I mean, again, I don't really like the big size of it, but everything about it looks really nice. The design, again, like the Moto X, but it looks nice. It's got the aluminum build. It's got obviously the processing power and all that stuff that go along with it. So uh, I thought it was nice. I was impressed. I wish that Google would have done a more of an event for it, though. It's kind of underwhelming to see a phone and not really get the little demos and stuff. As much as we give
That's the
people,
worst part. That was horrible.
I don't know. I actually kind of prefer that.
I mean, I like it. I don't like sitting through the event, but then it takes away some of the excitement about it when they.
Yeah,
But they did a really good job with the new Nexus website of kind of setting it up in a way that highlights all the
yeah.
time features and kind of walks
The
you
new
through.
Nexus site is pretty baller.
It's just weird not hyping it at all, though. I mean, like with the Nexus 4, they came out of nowhere. They originally had an event scheduled for the Nexus 4. Some kind of hurricane, I think it was Sandy or something, came and
Yeah,
uh, ruined those plans. And then they gave the exclusive to The Verge. And The Verge had this awesome, like, cool hands-on that they did, and like talking with Hugo Barra and like face to face, and he's explaining everything. And even that was like pretty cool. But I mean, this time it was like The Verge got the exclusive again, but they had just like the smallest little post. It was just like, hey, here's a phone, here's some specs. It's gonna be awesome.
yeah. They were
As
basically just told everything before everybody else. They didn't
yeah,
like have the device
Yeah,
as
the
far as I
announcement
could tell.
was.
They didn't have any like product pictures with their watermark on it or anything.
Yeah, and then even after that, after the Google post goes live, then we get a bunch of different press releases and other posts going live from Motorola and HTC and some of the carriers announcing their plans. So it was kind of
It
a
was sudden. It was a little bit. I would consider it a blunder. I mean, even like there
Well,
should have.
Blunder is insinuating that something went wrong. I think this is exactly what they wanted to do.
No, I mean it just seemed very sudden, and like the way things were rolling out. I mean, it was like different people were in charge of different things, and like they showed that whole audition Lollipop video like hours after they announced Lollipop, and they showed all these other videos and all this other stuff, and it was like, well, what about that video? Way later, they uploaded that video. It was just like everything was out of order and just really
There was one legit blunder,
fragmented.
though. I don't know if you guys saw it, but at first they said the Nexus 4 wasn't getting Android L, and people were like, "What?" And people were really mad, and then they're like, "No, no, 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 wait, that was wrong. It is. It's getting Android L."
yeah.
I guess they just forgot to include the number in there. But yeah, 'cause I saw the blog post, and it said Nexus 4, 7, all this. But I guess initially they had forgot, left it out. But yeah, so I don't know. It's a big phone.
Yeah, I mean, it was so leaked and rumored that it was pretty much exactly what we thought. Everybody had their posts kind of drafted up because we knew so much about it, so that made it easier.
Yeah. I guess like the biggest complaint people really have about the phone, mine is the fact that it only comes in navy blue and white. There's no like solid black option, but
Yeah, I was going to ask you about this because you tweeted that you do not like blue phones. What's your reasoning behind
I
that?
like navy blue to me is the worst color on the planet. Like I don't know who invented navy blue. Aren't you wearing a navy blue shirt right now?
I do most times. It's my favorite color.
I think it's
Well, I don't
horrible,
know if
but
I would buy a navy blue phone. They don't usually look that great. You're right.
yeah,
They
I
had
had
some
a
interesting color choices this time around, though.
yeah, it's like even their white, it's not really like a bright white. It's like this weird kind of like a gray, like a light gray white. I don't know how to explain it, but it's the same thing as like on the Moto X. But people are just most freaked out, I guess, about the pricing, which is like a full-fledged, regular priced smartphone. And
Yeah. Imagine that. You
uh,
have a specs of a real phone. You have to pay for it. I mean,
I mean, even like the Nexus 5 has the specs of a real phone. They managed to. I think what people don't seem to understand is that this is an entirely different type of Nexus device this time around. Whereas Google normally partners with like Samsung, LG, an OEM to make a smartphone. They just say, hey, do whatever you can to pack this really powerful processor and get the price point down to about this much so you can put it in the Play Store. Can anybody do that? And then HTC is like, well, I think we could do it, blah, blah, like, and then LG comes and they're like, well, here's our idea, we can do it, and then Google shops around and says, okay, we think we want LG to do it. Let's partner with LG. They have a great idea for a really low-price smartphone. But with the Nexus 6, it was kind of like going back to all those really, really strong rumors about Android Silver and how these different manufacturers were going to release smartphones that had stock Android, pretty much essentially Google Play Edition devices, but they would be offered across all carriers and subsidized. So you'd be able to get it for $200, $100 on contract, and this is that phone. The Nexus 6 is what we've been hearing about with Android Silver, in all respects, except now they just happen to slap a Nexus branding on the back because I guess Android Silver kind of fell through the cracks. The guy that was leading that left Google last minute, and yeah. So I mean, this is an Android Silver device in every single way. It's offered. It's across every single carrier, Sprint, Verizon. It's only one model, which is crazy, but supports all these different carriers. It's kind of freaking awesome.
it's
Yeah.
really just basically. I mean, it costs a lot more than the Nexus 5 because there's no sacrifice. I mean, you look at the Nexus 5, and yeah, it has good specs, but like the body of it is not the best material, and you can see where they saved money on it to
Oh yeah,
make it cheap. But the 6, they just went all out.
Yeah, I
they
mean, this
they
is
always cut corners normally.
this is like a fundamental shift in strategy, I think, for the Nexus line. I think Google's always been happy. I mean, first they wanted to kind of try the no carrier contract. option with the Nexus 1, then they got around to trying to sell the low-cost option with the 4 and 5, still with kind of the unlocked model. But this, I think they're actually just giving in sort of to the market, not adjusting. And they said, you know what, it's time that, and I think this kind of extends to the new kind of Android advertisements that they're doing and Lollipop in general. I think they have decided it's time that Google needs to more directly fight a company like Apple and even other manufacturers like Sam. They need to have the actual build of Android needs a flagship device that will be on the same level as a Galaxy S5 or an iPhone 6.
Yeah.
The Nexus does that, and Android L with while I don't think it has as much continuity features like what we've been seeing with the Apple announcements with iOS 8 and Yosemite, they're definitely working to have a unified device strategy that cuts down on fragmentation, and you can move between your watch and your phone and your TV and your tablet. So they're trying to unify Android, and they need a strong flagship device to really sell that.
They want to hit the mainstream, and I think like with all these new ads and stuff that we're seeing, it's like it's very, very much mainstream. Everyone kept saying how, dude, I can totally see these ads like on late night TV or just whatever. They want to hit the mainstream. The only way you can do that is if you have your phone in carrier stores. If there's somebody pushing your phone, if you have some type of promo material, something, you need to have them in carrier stores. This whole offering it on the Google Play Store, putting the ads on YouTube videos and just crossing your fingers and hoping it would work, didn't work. Like nobody really. I mean, there's a few people I know that had like gotten the Nexus 5, but I mean, just like regular moms and everyone else, even $400, $300 is still a little too steep for them when they can go into a carrier store and they can buy an HTC One. It's all shiny, or an iPhone for $100, $200 on contract. It's just like there's no question. But
yeah, I mean, I think the strategy, maybe, I don't know if it proves the point, but I'd say when I go around and just run into random people, the most common Nexus phone I've ever seen was the Galaxy Nexus, and that's because it had a strong Verizon carrier push. And so people bought that phone in a Verizon store. They might not even have heard about it. They might have just gone in the store and they said, oh, well, this is the Galaxy Nexus Android phone, and people bought it. So that was not the best by far. That might have been the worst Nexus phone ever made. But
it was really bad.
But it was definitely got in people's hands because of the Verizon retail availability.
Plus, it had Galaxy in the name. I think
that doesn't.
Well, back then, I don't think like Samsung had this big Galaxy brand image that they have now. Now it's like it's ridiculous. People are just like, "Oh, you got the Galaxy? Is that new Galaxy?" Like it's just.
I think they were starting to get that name recognition.
Yeah, I think it was right around the
time. A little bit, yeah.
I think that's why they pushed it. I mean, they even did it with the Nexus S. They were so like, got to get our name in there, Nexus S, because we're Samsung.
Oh yeah, that's true.
All right, let's move on though to the tablet Nexus 9, and is that made by HTC?
AC tablet.
It is.
It's an interesting approach, but a smart approach, because it looks like it's going to basically replace both the Nexus 7 and the Nexus 10. It's not as cheap as the Nexus 7, but it's a much nicer tablet, and it also hits an interesting sweet spot in terms of size, because rather than have a 7-inch and a 10-inch tablet, they kind of split the middle with an 8.9-inch tablet that should be more portable than a full-on 10-inch tablet, but offer a little more screen size than the Nexus 7.
What was the price on the Nexus 9?
It's going to be $399, so it's right around the price of the iPad Mini and like an 8.4-inch Galaxy Tab S.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it looks like a nice device. I think that cream color that it comes in is kind of a unique looking device. What did someone say? It looks like a Apple Lisa 2 computer.
Yeah, it looks like an old school desktop kind of color.
Yeah,
the old like plastic computers.
Green gray.
But I mean, it's interesting color choices that they made with like a navy blue phone and then that creamy beige Bailey's looking color on the tablet. But yeah, I think it's a nice tablet. I'm a little bit hesitant because I know HTC hasn't done the greatest job with tablets in the past. I guess I have a little more faith in this one because it's running stock Android Lollipop and it has had a lot of input from Google in helping to shape it. But it's got some nice features. It's got, I think it's going to be one of the first tablets, if not the first, to sport that NVIDIA Tegra K1, unless I guess their Shield tablet probably uses that. But it's got a Tegra processor, which we haven't seen in a mainstream tablet in a while. Which should have some nice graphics support. with the Kepler GPU. And it's got the 8.9-inch display, high resolution. I think it's close to that QHD mark. I can't remember the exact resolution.
Yeah, it's the same resolution as the iPad Air 2, which was just announced. So
Yeah.
pretty nice.
1440p. 1440p display.
Yeah, so it's
seems
over
to
1080.
be, just looking at a picture of the shape, it seems to be more of an iPad shape too. Like the Nexus 7 was kind of narrow and long.
Oh
This
yeah,
one's
yeah.
more
It's not.
squarish.
It's not 16:9 aspect ratio anymore. It's more of like almost. I wouldn't say 4:3, but it could be 4:3. But it's definitely very, very square. A lot of people aren't really happy about that part, but I think that's actually kind of cool. I like that a lot when they're a little bit wider. I don't like these long, skinny, narrow
Yeah. I mean,
towers.
there's a reason Apple uses that for the bigger iPads. It's easier to hold, I think.
Yeah, easy to hold, easier to view content and stuff. It's a good little ratio.
I think we got a question here that I think would be appropriate for Chris to answer. It seems like geared right up his alley. Wreath Walls asks, is anyone else annoyed that the white versions of the Nexus 6 and 9 have a black bezel on the front? Actually, I noticed this at all, if that's true, but that's not.
I didn't see
It
that.
is true, I think.
Yeah, I didn't actually see the front of a white Nexus.
I mean, the Nexus 5 was the same way. It had just that little white, like, circle speaker color, but, like, the back was white and the front was black.
I mean, they've traditionally done that. I don't know if that's like an intentional move, but I did not know that the white version did not have a white front. But that's kind of interesting. Again, the back isn't really white. The white version that they offer, I forget what they actually call the actual color, but
Space white?
it's like a gray, like a cream or something. Like I don't know, but it's definitely an off-white. So if you had like a stark white front that Motorola uses, it wouldn't really. I don't know. I mean, I guess they could have just used a completely white back, but I'm probably not in the majority in this, but I actually really enjoy a completely black front and then a white back. That's
I was
always
just about to say that too, yeah.
that's my go-to color choice.
Because, especially with a device with on-screen buttons, I like the illusion that it just kind of like all blends in. You don't know where the display starts and where it ends.
Exactly, yeah. That's that's funny. And then especially with AMOLED, and if it's AMOLED, even when the black bar at the bottom, it just completely blends in with the bezel, so doesn't really bother me too much.
We got a comment here about the Nexus 9. This is Thaddeus Pekorak, I don't know. The only reason to buy the Nexus 9 is if you are either into the Android ecosystem or just like Android in general. They aren't differentiating themselves from their main competitor anymore in any way. There's no reason to buy the Nexus tablet over an iPad. Interesting point, because with the Nexus 7, I think the compelling reason was it was so cheap.
Yeah, that was like the one thing it had going for it above other things. I mean, it wasn't a bad tablet, but the pricing was definitely helpful for that Nexus 7.
It was very helpful. There's a lot of people that bought it just because of that low price point. But I mean, yeah, it's a very, very interesting.
I mean, it's a valid point because I kind of sat there and thought about it, and I wanted to think about the Nexus 9, and the initial instinct is to say it's a great Android tablet, but then you kind of step back, and that kind of is true that it doesn't offer much that would differentiate it from not just an iPad but other Android tablets. I mean, other than the stock Lollipop build and the guaranteed updates, there's not much in terms of what stands out about this tablet that makes me want to get it over a Galaxy Tab S or over the NVIDIA Shield tablet or even over finding an old Galaxy Nexus 10 or a Nexus 7.
Yeah.
So,
I mean that's always been the problem with Android tablets. Just all right, why do I need this?
Yeah, just tablets. For me, that's the tablets in general. But just going back to like the iPad, when you look at that versus an iPad, it's kind of why should I get this versus the iPad? But I mean, really, I think Google is very confident in Android right now, and Android L is like the bee's knees, and I think pretty much anyone can use it. From a user experience perspective, it's going to look really, really awesome and stuff, but I think Android has matured into this point where Google's just like, you know what, people want Android. Android is good. we can start marketing Android itself as just Android. We don't have to have someone skin it and do all this other stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's what we're seeing now with these higher price points and getting into carrier stores and all that.
I think in the same sort of idea, the question arises if someone says, why should I get the Nexus 9 versus another tablet? I mean, you could also frame it the other way and say, why shouldn't you get it? I mean, there's nothing about the Nexus 9 that's worse than any of these other tablet options. So maybe,
Yeah, exactly.
maybe the stock Android build is enough to kind of justify that.
It's apps, though. I mean, for tablets, why should I buy the Nexus 9 over the iPad, or why should I buy the iPad over the Nexus 9? It's apps.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. iPad has some crazy good tablet apps and stuff, so
Yeah.
very true.
All right, we got a couple other comments here to get through. Mikey Johnson, in addition to the weird color scheme, does anyone else find the Nexus 6 ugly with those metal pieces? I don't think it's ugly. I think it looks pretty nice.
Is the metal referring to the aluminum frame that's the same as like the Moto X?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I assume so.
That looks nice. I mean,
I've heard a lot of people say they don't like it. I think it looks cool, but I guess beauty's in the eye of the beholder and all that. But I think it looks cool. People seem to have a problem with that, and I think it's the big aluminum Motorola button on the back. That's kind
I
of.
don't like the big Nexus logo on the back. That kind of looks
Well,
dumb to me.
it needs to be like one or the other. They should have like worked with Motorola to either keep the button and write Nexus in there, or I don't know, just do something where like it's just
write Nexus and have the logo, the M logo, start and the word.
yeah, or
Nexus.
Nexus.
Yeah, they could have just put the little circular X logo in that thing. I don't know, but yeah, I think that's the goofier thing. I don't mind the metal frame because I know it means a device with a slightly higher build quality, and I like a device that kind of feels like that. Is it regardless of the color, is it like a light metal or is it like a dark gunmetal type thing? What kind of?
They have two different colors. So the white version has the silver, so it's like aluminum, like regular, like a MacBook Pro, and then the other one's gunmetal, like a very dark, slightly bluish tint to it, I guess.
All right, we got to get through. I'm just going to read some of these comments. Reith Walls says he likes white front because he thinks it frames the picture better. So that's kind of like what Chris was saying. It's in the eye of the beholder. And he also said he wishes they would have kept the Nexus 7 as a cheaper option like they are doing with the Nexus 5. And I think that would have been a great thing to do.
That would have made perfect sense.
I mean, we saw Apple do it today. Keep the original iPad Mini as.
Yeah.
Now they have a $250 tablet, which is actually pretty crazy and something we can talk about.
All right, so just moving on, rounding out the Android stuff. Nexus TV, which is the first, I guess, consumer device with Android TV on it. It costs $99. Basically.
Nexus Player.
Yeah, Nexus Player.
Oh, you're right.
Don't be a player hater.
It's pretty cool. I mean, it's just streaming apps like a Roku with Android apps, basically.
Yeah, it's like what Android TV should have been, or I guess Google TV. It's a simple approach that has Chromecast functionality plus apps, which is all you really need.
And you can do voice search on the remote, which is nice. You can't do that on a Roku.
One thing that worries me a little bit is how limited the remote is. It's like the Fire TV approach where there's like I guess the Apple TV remote's like that too, but I like to have actual buttons and stuff on my remote for the.
Does it?
Give me some numbers.
Buttons? I didn't look at it that closely.
No, I think it's strictly just mostly wants to operate through voice control, and I guess you can probably have
really?
a click wheel or something. I haven't really looked at it too much, but that's what it looked like.
All right.
And there's a game controller, though. There's also game controllers.
Yeah.
So you can play games.
And it looks actually like a really nice one, too.
Yeah, looks tight.
That's by Asus, and Asus made that Asus Cube, which was actually a pretty nice Google TV device.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as nice as a Google TV device could be.
I'm really curious to try Android TV. I think it looks really nice.
Yeah, I would definitely, for that price, the Nexus Player is something that I would consider picking up. I need to upgrade from the Google TV I currently have because that's basically just a paperweight that my HDMI signal runs through. I don't even use Google TV for any functions anymore. So I need to upgrade that game. So I'm probably going to debate between that Nexus Player and the Apple TV. So if anybody has any opinions on that.
Well, I am a set-top box connoisseur. I have the Roku 3, I have a Chromecast, I have a Boxy TV.
Holy cow.
I'm all about the set-top boxes, so I might have to get it and
Do you
try
use
it
them all
out.
at the same time? Do you have a box to switch between your boxes?
Right now, I
Switch
have the
to-
Roku 3 and the Chromecast connected. And I'd say I use the Roku 3 75% of the time, Chromecast 25%.
Nice.
All right, so moving on, we did mention the Android marketing a little bit. Their new slogan, "Be together, not the same," and I think that we're going to start seeing that a lot more places. That to me is a direct shot at Apple.
Oh, for sure. It's in the slogan. Don't be.
Yeah,
Don't be the
it's like,
same. Be
hey,
together.
not everyone stop using all the same phones. It's boring,
But
Come to
you know,
Android, be creative, be
That's
different.
lame. Don't
But
be a
we-
lame-o.
But we saw sort of them firing back today at the Apple event when they showed the Android adoption rates, and once again, they haven't really. Apple hasn't made a big deal about fragmentation recently, but today they went all in on fragmentation, and
Yeah, but that's not
It's a-
marketable to consumers. No one cares about that.
And no,
I would
that's
care if you
apples to
can-
oranges. It
if
pisses
being
me
in the
off.
Android ecosystem means I might not get the new operating system update for over 2 years.
It doesn't. It matters. It's investing in a Samsung device. Does that mean I'm not gonna get an update? Or investing in an HTC device? Does that mean so? Like, really, Apple needs to compare when they do those charts and stuff. They need to compare it to like a Google product. So they need to compare it to one of the Nexus. So compare it to the Nexus 5 or compare it to the
Yeah.
Nexus 6 now. I mean, that's a true apples to apples
But
comparison.
I think the point is that asks the consumer to think too much. It asks, across the board, you just want an Android phone. I mean, you can't think too hard about, oh, well, only compare
Yeah.
it to the Nexus phones or only compare it to the Galaxy phones. I mean,
Yeah.
Well, it's a different it's Apple wants you to think that all Android phones are the same and they don't
Exactly.
get updates and blah blah blah. Google wants you to know that their phones are different.
But yeah, all their phones are different, and there's only one that like a couple that have stock Android, and you'll get updates quickly. But
but I mean, then again, I also think that slogan plays towards the other thing that we mentioned earlier, how they want to have all of your devices work together, but they can all be different devices. So
Yeah, that's a good point too.
watch, tablet, phone, and they all will work together, but they're not the same. So, and the interface is different for each, and they do different things. So, I think it works on multiple levels. So, I think it's smart. I like the new approach they're taking, but my hesitation is Google seems to do this all the time, and then they don't really follow through, and it never sticks.
I mean,
Yeah,
with
they
all
always
the
come
money,
out.
all the money
Go
they
ahead.
have, you would think you would see these ads freaking everywhere. They'd be able to just like media blitz everything, but they never do, and it's so
They
frustrating.
do with like their search ads. You see
Yeah.
those all the time. Those are really nice. It's like, hey, why don't we throw some, phone ads up there once in a while?
Just a couple, sprinkle them out there. Just
Yeah.
do something with them.
All right, let's move on to what happened immediately before we started recording, and that is new iPads. Kind of a meh event, I'll have to say. It was boring, and
Yeah.
they were doing this comedy routine with
It was
security that was
cringeworthy. That was
super lame.
Stephen Colbert was that Stephen Colbert I saw on stage?
yeah. I think they forgot that Stephen Colbert is no longer like the hippest comedian out there. Now he's like a late night TV comedian, so he's kind of passe. Like no.
Yeah, that was the equivalent of calling David Letterman. Like, no one cares. Come on.
Well, I mean, it's funny because like every time they do this stuff, it's always like one of those guys. It's like Tim Cook. It's whoever he thinks is funny or whatever his favorite band is.
Like, that guy's not funny anymore. No, he is.
Everybody's getting a free season of the Colbert Report on their phone.
No.
Actually, that probably wouldn't be that bad. The Colbert Report's pretty good.
No, it is, yeah. But I guess we should talk about the iPads, and there's not a lot to talk about.
Yeah, it's the big thing. I mean, it's what I expected for the most part. It's that every other year release from Apple, they do the big changes, then they do a small update. Big changes, small update. So this was kind of the small update to last year's iPad. So we got a new iPad Air, which gets crazy thin. Please don't put that in your pocket because it will bend.
I can't wait until Unbox Therapy. You know it's gonna
6.1
happen.
millimeters thick. So
It'll be so easy to bend, too, yeah.
You know it's gonna happen. That's the thing now. Like everyone wants to bend everything. So.
But it had everything you expected. It had an upgraded processor. I was expecting the A8, but they actually threw in the A8X. which is like tailored for the iPad. So you get, but similar performance upgrades that you saw on the iPhone 6. It gets Touch ID, which is a first. The Retina display looks like it stays the same resolution, same size. So the big thing was it got thinner, and there were some of those iterative upgrades to the processor and some of the other features. They actually finally bumped the camera up from 5 megapixels to 8 megapixels. Seems like for a while Apple was
In
ignoring.
the Air they did. The Mini is still 5 megapixels.
Seems like they were kind of ignoring the camera for a while because everyone was kind of like taking pictures with your iPad's goofy, and they never really made a big deal. I was surprised how big a deal they made out of the camera features for the iPad Air.
Dark days are ahead.
They embraced it.
It's gonna be horrible. It's like because they always threw it in there as kind of like a secondary function. Like if you need to take a picture or if something crazy's happening, you already have your iPad out, go ahead and take a picture. But now it's like, holy crap, a bunch of crazy people love taking pictures with their iPad. It's like
someone tweeted that this was the daddest iPad event ever because like who are the people taking pictures with iPads? They're like dads, like wow, this is cool.
Every time.
The Stephen Colbert thing was definitely dad centric.
Yeah, that was too actually.
The whole thing was secrecy. That was really dumb. Kind of funny.
Triple down on secrecy. Get it? Because double down is funny. Oh, bad.
Considering that the event was basically spoiled yesterday by Apple themselves with a leak that they accidentally published, and someone probably lost the job over.
Steve Jobs would be rolling in his grave.
It's rolling. That's all he does. He just flips it around.
He's just in a constant roll.
I think with each event, they're getting a little more kind of ballsy to move away from the Steve Jobs thing, because you can see they start to bring in this sort of very Tim Cook cheesiness to each of these events. It gets worse and worse each time. And
that's what I said during the event. The last couple Apple events, I think they were hitting all the right notes and being like edgy and cool and funny. And it seemed like in this one they went too far. They went over the line and it wasn't funny anymore.
Next thing you know, they're going to be jumping out of a plane, skydiving into the arena.
Jeez.
Tim Cook coming out.
Talking about starting their own colony where there's no laws and stuff, or whatever Sergey was talking about that one time.
That was awesome, dude. I mean, that's the difference between Google and Apple. Apple's very square, and then Google is like they're a bunch of crazy tech hippies. It's a bunch of hippies.
Well,
crazy stuff.
They also had iPad Mini update, iPad Mini 3, and that doesn't really change much. Kind of the same upgrades that you saw on the iPad Air 2. So, yeah, kind of uninspiring. Nothing that you like want to say, take my money over, but I'm sure they'll sell really well and be popular.
Well, the biggest thing, I think, for us and maybe most of the people listening to this podcast is Apple Pay launches on Monday.
Oh, yeah, that was a big announcement.
So get your Google Wallet ready, because more places are going to be accepting it. Yeah.
I'm so excited. Like on a personal, I actually put this in the post that I did about that. But the little place where I go get my haircut, my little barber shop, this little old lady, they have like this old cash register and all this stuff, whatever. But I went to go pay with my credit card, and usually she busts out this old credit card machine that's all ugly and it's got the big old receipt thing. This time she pulls out this like shiny, awesome one. And it has a huge old tap to pay thing on it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's like you like upgraded, whatever." I'm like, "Oh, why'd you guys like change your thing?" And she's like, "Oh, the Apple, the iPhone, the Apple, you gonna pay." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's crazy. That's so cool. I could use my phone. I could use my Google Wallet now." It's like, and it's so awesome. I know. I bet you this: if I would have pulled out my Android phone and tried to pay, but oh no, this is Apple. This is Apple Pay. Like, no.
That's what you just, lady, just watch.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Apple's doing a good job of making it sound like this is a technology exclusive.
They have.
It has INFC.
They've never once just been like, oh, it uses the standard or the, like something that's regularly available. Like, no, they just keep saying like it's ours. It's our.
Because they keep mentioning all the credit card companies and banks, which that more deals with how the money is transferred, not the actual technology behind it, which is already built into so many different phones. And so people think that Apple's got some deal with your bank that works through your phone that only Apple can use. So they're doing a good job of making it sound like it's their exclusive technology.
Slick. So slick.
Yeah. I guess that wraps up all the big stuff that happened this week. It was quite a blitz of stuff.
It was good. We got some good devices to look
Yeah.
forward to.
And just to wrap things up, I don't think we mentioned, when are the Nexus 6 and the Nexus 9, Nexus Player, all those things going on sale?
Was it November?
The Nexus 9 is, and I think the Nexus Player are both up for pre-order tomorrow, October 17th, so probably today for people listening to the recording. And on sale November 3rd. The Nexus 6 we don't have a solid release date for, but they said pre-order later this month, availability in November. And the two iPads are going up for pre-order tomorrow, the 17th as well, and shipping next week.
All right, cool. So we'll mention some of the quicker hit news here. Rob Jackson reviewed the Galaxy Note 4 this week, and I think he liked it. And I've been actually hearing a lot of really positive reviews for the Note 4, like more so than usual. A lot of people saying, I actually like this, and they were surprised by it.
I thought the Note's always got pretty good reviews. They just are so big that not everybody wants it.
Yeah, I mean, specifically, I heard some of the people at The Verge that they did a review, and they were like, this is actually a really nice Note. I don't know why they thought this one was so much better than the other ones, but so apparently it's pretty nice. That's on sale right now, is it?
Yeah, I think it became available this week, maybe tomorrow.
I think it's Friday. I think it's Friday. Yeah, right.
Okay.
7th. Yeah, 17th.
All right, and someone requested that we talk about this. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Will.i.am revealed a smartwatch called Pulse. Did you guys see it?
I've not seen it.
I mean, I saw pictures. I didn't see it in action. It looks like something straight out of like Deep Space.
Oh, it's not a smart watch. It's a smart cuff.
Yes, it is a smart cuff. It has 3G. But yeah.
Does Will.i.am, like, I'm just looking at this picture of him, does he put his clothes in a time machine and send them to like a tailor in the future to make them look?
I know. Look at what he's wearing.
There's nobody really that bugs me quite as much as Will.i.am. I don't know if I'm gonna just there's posts about how like he like blatantly copies like music from other people and then like tries to put a hip beat to it and stuff and whatever. So the guy's like, I think he's a dirtbag, but he's just so weird. And then now he's trying to make this weird watch cuff thing. It's just...
Yeah, and the models came out wearing these clothes that had like built-in battery packs, and if the smart cuff thing was like in contact with the sleeve, it would charge, which is kind of cool. But you just read his description of it, and he does sound like an insane person that thinks he came from the future. It's like, technology should be part of more of the things we wear. Pardon me for dreaming, but F it, let's dream. He's
mid sentence, he just drops a beat and just.
Yeah. I can't wait for the song that goes along with it.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's gonna be an
all get the Will.i.am Black Eyed Peas album in our smartphones.
Gotta get that pulse. Jesus. All right. Last thing I'll mention is Windows and Windows Phone is getting another Halo game, Spartan Strike it's called, and the original Halo game for Windows phones was awesome, so this one should be just as cool. And I think the original is on Xbox now too, so it was a really good game. All right. Wins and fails of the week. Kevin Kraus.
All right, my win of the week. So this Apple event was today, and I actually stopped paying attention after like the first 5 minutes because they announced something that was the only thing I needed to hear, and that was the return of the regular old camera roll to iOS 8 as part of iOS 8.1 update, which is coming on Monday. I guess I mentioned this briefly, I think, on last week's podcast about how it was really irritating that you could only find your recent photos and there was no one place to go to see all of your photos in the same folder. Apple listened to feedback for once, and they're bringing back the camera roll, so I couldn't be happier about that. My fail of the week, so a lot of stuff has been going on in the NFL lately that you can talk about, but we haven't really been able to talk about any of it here on the podcast because it's not all that tech related, but this recent one I thought kind of fit the bill and was interesting to me. The NFL has banned the use of Beats headphones by players at least when they're at the stadium being filmed and going to be seen with the headphones, because they have signed a sponsorship deal with Bose for headphones, and there's actually already been I think a couple players who have been fined for wearing their Beats
Yeah.
headphones while on camera. So
What?
it's kind of funny because I think Colin Kaepernick probably had a sponsorship deal with Beats. I know there are a few players that used to have commercials for
He
Beats.
was one of the ones that put tape over the Beats logo, I think.
Yeah.
Wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, apparently people are still using them. I don't know the exact deals of when the NFL can fine you, but
Yeah.
it's just one more ridiculous thing.
I
In
think
this
Cam
case,
Newton was one that got fined.
yeah, probably. I know he also I think has been in Beats commercials, but
Did you hear though that they actually like explained the rule a little bit more? You can wear your Beats headphones like when they show you getting off the bus and walking into the stadium and stuff, but like in the actual stadium and during the game you can't. Like during warm-ups. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. That's why people say NFL stands for No Fun League because of things like that.
yeah, I want to see someone bust out their Beats headphones for their touchdown dance and get like a double fine.
Yeah. Where's Chad Ochocinco when you need him? All right, my win of the week is going to be the carrier availability of the new Nexus 6. We talked about it a little bit before, but I think that is a huge deal to be able to have the same Nexus device on all 4 of the major carriers in the U.S. at a subsidized price. It's going to be a big deal in making that a more mainstream device, which is a good thing. More people should use stock Android, I think. My fail is going to be the pricing of the Nexus 6, but the reaction is what my fail is. I think the pricing completely makes sense. It's a nice, awesome phone. It should cost the same as like other awesome phones when you buy it unlocked. And my thing is, Nexus fans, they are never happy. Okay, they're never happy. If it's not cheap, they're not happy. But when it is cheap, they'll say, "Oh, I wish this was a little bit more premium." Okay, so now it is premium, and now they say, "Oh, I wish it was cheaper." Guess what? You can't have both. If you want a top-of-the-line smartphone, you're gonna have to pay for it. That's just how it is.
Joe's calling you out.
I'm not the only one to be calling these people out either. It's
you and Richard Urell.
Oh yeah, that's right. I saw your retweets yesterday. I mean, it's so true though.
Bunch of suckers.
You would think that people who like Nexus phones, who are like techies like us, and they understand how things work, they would know that like, okay, this is not a subsidized device. It's gonna cost a lot, but they just don't wanna believe it.
I mean, this is just what happens when you have a phone that's, like you said, it's premium, that is available, subsidized with all these carriers in the motherfucking U.S. This is the price that you get. This is what happens.
Well,
you can have that, or you can have a super cheap, unlocked phone that's not going to do so well. And I mean, why would Google want to do that? They're trying to branch out. And
I think the other thing that's kind of had manufacturers sort of stop trying to make super cheap phones is also the industry shift towards the down payment and monthly installment plan system at carriers. So now that consumers can still get fast upgrades but pay a premium price for the phone, and the threat of a 2-year contract isn't as big, I think carriers or manufacturers are really getting along with that system, saying, okay, we can make a $650 phone and still sell it at that price because people can do this installment plan and still get the upgrades when they want them. So I don't know who loses in that situation, probably the carrier, but it works out for everyone else.
All right, Chris, what do you got for us?
My win for the week is going to be a few new Lollipop features that they didn't really announce at Google I/O because they really can't. There's so much new stuff, but they were included in the official Lollipop changelog. It's going to be what was it? Oh, it's called screen pinning. So apparently they're going to have a feature where if you lend your phone to somebody, like, oh, can I use your phone to make a phone call? You can pin that screen specifically, and they won't be able to get out of it. So you can share your phone, and you don't have to worry about them jumping in your gallery or snooping around your text messages.
That is awesome.
That's nice.
Kind of freaking awesome. And there was a few new details about their new kill switch feature, which is kind of cool. But it's not necessarily a kill switch. It's just a factory reset prevention thing. So people can't factory reset unless they have a password, your password, and to factory reset it and use it as their own. Pretty darn cool too. My fail for the week is the fact that there was no Nexus 5 price drop. So the whole fate of the Nexus 5 is still kind of hanging in the balance. No one's really sure if they're gonna just keep it going in the Google Play Store. It might just be sold out for the next year or so. But one thing I would have really liked to have seen would have just been at least like maybe a $50 price drop or something, just to kind of get that Nexus 5 pricing down a little bit. Because I mean, it has been out for a year. It's a year anniversary of the Nexus 5. I think it's time to drop the price. Of course, again, Google doesn't set these prices. They people who make these phones set the prices. So LG would have to be like agree to that. Yeah, we could drop it by $50, but nothing.
It could
Nothing
still.
yet.
I think there's still some hope that it could happen because we did see some changes. The 16 gigabyte, at least yesterday, was out of inventory. They only had the 32 gigabyte model, so they might be doing something. Like when they announce availability of the Nexus 6, they might switch up pricing on the Nexus 5. That's still a possibility.
Oh yeah, there's still. I guess there is still hope, but really cool announcement.
All right.
Chris, you're cutting in and out.
Fine with this.
Is your thing plugged in all the way? All right, Kevin, what's your app pick?
My app for this week is going to be, surprisingly, Facebook for an update that they brought. I think this is on actual web page desktop version, but it's also in the iOS app, and I'm sure if not already in Android, it's coming to Android. It's the safety check feature, which I think is pretty cool. A lot of features that Facebook rolls out are usually useless and just make things more complicated, but safety check is nice. It uses your location to determine if you're near a disaster area and lets you really quickly, it pops up a notification and it says, are you all right? You say yes, and then it quickly just puts a little notification on Facebook for you so that, if your friends and family, well, Kevin was over that earthquake, maybe he's in danger, they can just check Facebook and I can say, no, all right, wasn't caught in the earthquake. So
That is awesome.
it's a useful, nice feature. I mean, I like stalk a lot of people on Facebook, but I don't post and do a lot of interacting on Facebook usually. But that is one thing that I could see using Facebook for pretty effectively. So that's my app pick is an update to Facebook. It's not a new app to download, but it's just something that's been added that you might not have known about. So it's worth kind of opting into and checking out.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. My app is an app from Skype, and this is like the new app they've made since Skype, I think. They don't make many new apps, so.
Are they still
kind
owned
of
by
a big deal.
Microsoft though?
Yeah, they're still owned by Microsoft. So this app's called Skype Quick or Kick. I don't know how I would say
I
it.
think it's Quick.
QIK.
In the application description, it says to pronounce it quick.
Okay, so I was right. Quick. And it's basically just a video messaging app, video group messaging app. I'm not 100% sure how it works because I didn't download it, but I saw a video on it and it looks like it's pretty cool. I guess it has some Snapchat-like features in it, but you can send short videos to each other or photos. It doesn't have to be video, and it looks pretty cool. I don't know how successful it's going to be because there's so many messaging apps like this, but the fact that Skype made it is cool, and it looks like it works really well. And they released it on all three platforms at the same time, Windows Phone, Android, iOS, which is always a plus, especially when you're owned by Microsoft. You'd be surprised how many times that doesn't happen. But they did it this time, so that's good.
Yeah, pretty cool. Little app. I don't have an app pick, but oh wait, no, I do. There's Gloops Express. I was trying to think, did I install anything this past week? And I did. I installed Gloops Express. So Gloops Express, or Glimpse, you guys have probably seen it. Probably the ugliest application to have ever been uglied. It's the most disgusting looking app. But Glimpse allows you to send or share your location with others. And for whatever reason, I guess the team at Glimpse hasn't really been working on updating their app to like a new UI or anything, but it's available on iOS and Android. So they released this very light version called Gloops Express, which it literally just, you open the app, it has pictures of people You can click on them, or you can just click like share with whatever, and you can copy a link, send it to somebody, no matter what app it is. They can click it, it'll open up their browser, and it'll show your location. Pretty darn cool if you need to share your location. So if you're at some place and like, oh, where are you at? I don't know, man. This one place off of, you don't even have to give an address. You just be like, you know what? Let me glimpse you. And you just send a little link, and bloop, it just shows up. And you can set the amount of time you want it to be valid. So their little icon will show up there, and you can click on it, and you can set how much time you want your location to be available to this person. Awesome. Totally really cool. Way better than the actual Glimpse app, which is like convoluted. It's so complicated and confusing. I don't really know how to use it, and it's just really, really ugly. Gloops Express is way cooler and easier to use. Better.
Cool. All right, I think that's going to wrap things up. Thanks, everybody, for the comments. We got a ton of comments and questions that were popping up. People just sharing their opinions with us, and we appreciate that. That's awesome. We will be back next week. But before that, if you would like to send us a question, you can do so with our email address, podcast@mobileroar.com. You can also subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on Stitcher Radio, iTunes, and in the Windows Phone store. You can follow us on Twitter. You can ask us questions there, too, and we'll try to get to them. Chris is at GamerCore, Kevin is at You Don't Know Kev, and I am at Tall Schmo. And like I said, we'll be back next week with more mobile news to talk about. Peace.